Hey coaches, I've got a fantastic series coming up. Sometimes defensive videos do good, sometimes not on this channel, but I really hope you watch this. I've got Tony Bateman from Virginia. He is a Buddy Ryan disciple. He's a 4-6 guru, and I promise you, I don't care what side of the ball you're on. If you'll watch this series, you're going to learn some dang football. This guy, I mean, he is a high level defensive coordinator and truly impressive. One of those deals where it's over an hour long, so I'm going to break it into three parts. But I promise you, if you just watch this first 20-minute segment, you're going to learn some dang football. I mean, super impressive. So please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. But I challenge you, watch this series and you're going to learn some football. Thank you, man. Hey, coach, you got a fantastic guest tonight. Tony Bateman is a 46 specialist, and he is gonna probably gonna be a multi-part series, but he is gonna teach us his version of the 4-6, and he is highly sought after. He had a bunch of guys who wanted to come into this thing live, but they'll get to watch it on Tuesday with everyone else. He's been running this thing for 5 years. He's in Virginia, and Tony, I'm gonna let you give a 1 minute elevator introduction of yourself, kind of give your background a little bit, and then let's jump into this thing, man.
Thanks, Coach. Cut my teeth coaching in the Tidewater area of Virginia, Newport News, Chesapeake Public Schools. Spent 5 or 6 years there. The last 4 years I've been in Mecklenburg County, Virginia, Bluestone High School, now at Parkview High School. Taking this year off to finish my master's and kind of further my education and career, but I'm going to enjoy some time with my kids. But over the last 10 years, had a chance to coach, big school ball, great athletes, a lot of players. And then the last 4 or 5 years have kind of transitioned to a smaller school and a lesser demographic and less people. So the scheme I'll present tonight really gives you an idea of it's versatile. You can coach it if you have Power 5 kids, and you can coach it if you have a kid that's going to be working at Wendy's next week. It really doesn't matter. It can conform to the personnel that you give it to.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. I know we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, and can't wait to see it. So jump in and just teach us like you would your freshman group coming in.
All right, what I'm going to do first tonight, guys, and Coach, feel free to interject if you have a question. Also, you guys have questions, put them on the comment line, is I'm going to talk a little bit about the terminology, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the philosophy behind the defense. A lot of people think because they jump into 0 and 2 threes and they run that legendary bear front that they're running a 46 defense. Unfortunately, that's not the case. All you're doing is running an element or a front that is inside of the defense. The same way a 4-3 can have over, under, flex, and different alignments. The 46 also has different alignments and different principles behind it. So the first thing I want to do is just dispel that and let people know just because you face a double eagle or you know how to jump into one doesn't mean that you're running or facing a 46 defense. The other thing I want to talk about with a 46 defense is something that you have to ingrain and teach in day one, and that's pressure. Pressure for us, however, is not just something that is done because we blitz a bunch of people. Pressure is a philosophy. And what I mean by that is we teach 3 different elements of pressure. The first element of pressure is physical. Physicality has to do with bringing the blitz. It has to do with overloading the line of scrimmage. And it also has to do with how we play, how we tackle, how physical we are. 11 hats to the ball. All the things that you teach a normal defense just gets amped up a little bit in the physicality level of pressure. That applies physical pressure to your opponent. You want your opponent to know that they played your team, win, lose, or draw, based upon what the trainer has to do on Monday. That's basically our philosophy. The second element of pressure is psychological or mental. We want to force an offense to think. There's 2 key areas of an offense that we can attack and make think. Number one, especially for you high school coaches, it's not the quarterback, it's the offensive line. We want to force the offensive line to think. We want to dictate to them what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and make them have to communicate in their blocking schemes, whether run or pass, so they know who they got and how they got them. And we want to try to confuse that with some of our system. We want to conflict them mentally. And yes, we want to attack the quarterback mentally and let him know that everything you do today is going to be done very quickly and very fast. And even when you make the decision, you're probably going to get hit during the process. The third element of pressure is schematic pressure. That goes into more of a dictative defense. We want to go into a game telling the offense, if you beat us, you're going to have to do this and not that. We want to apply scheme pressure. We want to take away things by alignment. We want to take away things by scheme and try to force the offense into a bottleneck to do only certain things that we're allowing them to do because via game plan or film study, we feel like that's what they're not good at. And by scheme, we want to dictate and take away what they are good at. So those are the three elements of pressure we teach. It's not just pressure because I'm a blitz people. It's we want to pressure the entire offense. We pressure players. We pressure your scheme. We even pressure the play caller. If the play caller wants to drop back and throw the ball 40 times tonight with 5-man protection, fine. Just know your 5 better be able to block my 5 every single play. So we try to apply pressure in different ways. It's not just line up and play rec ball and blitz. So that is where the defense starts, a mentality of applying pressure to the offense. Now, the first thing I'm going to go into is something that we teach. This was stolen directly from Buddy Ryan. His sons taught it. It's called AFC. And I'm going to write that up here so you can remember it, AFC. And what AFC means is this: automatic, front, and coverage, okay? The 46 system back in the 80s and 90s at the NFL level was the first ever audible-based defense. In other words, your Mike linebacker and your free safety had the authority to adjust the coverage and the front based upon what they see. I do not necessarily do that at the high school level, but I tweak that system and I teach it based upon we're going to align what we see, but I don't necessarily give my kids the freedom to change a bunch of stuff like a Mike Singletary or a Seth Joyner might have had. Because unless you're coaching that kind of kid, you don't want the hands of your game plan too much in the hand of a 16-year-old. So AFC is automatic front and coverage. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works up here. Now, I'm going to draw it from our defensive perspective. If we're facing, I'm going to start off with a 2-back set and I'm going to go to a 1-back set. If we're facing a typical 2-back offense, okay, obviously you'll have a flanker on each side. If we're facing that offense, automatic front, the two main rules to automatic front is we want to maintain +1 in the run game. We want to have more than you do. We do never want to be in a situation where we're even or we're down a guy or we're having to roll a 175-pound kid from 10 yards away to play a run gap. We're not trying to do that. We're not trying to disguise what we're doing. We want you to know we outnumber you against the run. Our rules in the +1 is simple. We count the surface and we count the ball carrier. We do not count the quarterback. We only count the surface and the inline blockers, okay? So in this situation right here, our surface would be 6 because we have a tight end and 5 linemen, and our 1 inline blocker is this fullback right here, which is 7. Because of that, we need to have an 8-man front. We're not going to try to stop power with 6 people. We're going to have an 8-man front because you have 7 inline blockers. So this alignment right here is what generates the famous bear front that everybody has seen on TV for 30 years. And that's why I wanted to start here. It looks a little bit like this. You have your tight 3s, your straight nose, a 5. We play a 6 and a 9 with our 2 linebackers. We play a 40 tech Mike and a 40 tech strong safety. Some folks call him a rover.
Make your letters bigger, Coach. Your
okay.
X's, your O's are good, but make your letters bigger.
Okay. We're going to make sure y'all see the Mike, the strong safety. That is our buck linebacker here and our jack linebacker there. Now, to kind of explain to you our terminology as linebackers, we don't say Sam and Will because I don't like my kids getting caught up in strong and weak. All right. The buck linebacker is normally in a 9 technique to the strength or in a 5 technique if it's an open set. He is your prototypical Sam linebacker and maybe a 3-4 scheme. He's your edge setter and edge rusher. I let my kid play standing up. The jack linebacker is kind of what you would call a will, possibly in a 4-3 or 4-2 scheme. He's the most athletic of the bunch. He's the guy you trust on the tight end in cover 1. He's the guy that you trust in the run versus C gap. He's the most athletic of the bunch. Maybe not the smartest, but the most athletic. Of course, we know the Mike is the engine that runs the car. The strong safety has to have the ability to play in the box versus the run. If you're a team upon what your safeties are pass players and pass players only, I would not recommend this because in this scheme against this set, he is the free hitter. If he's not willing to be the free hitter, there's no sense in standing him there like he is one. An offense will figure that out in 2 drives. They'll figure out the strong safety doesn't want the smoke, and they'll just run the ball down your throat. But if you have a kid that will come in and put his foot through his face with your down column, then you got a situation where you can run this scheme. Now, the alignment is what creates some of the pressure. These three interior guys right here do not play traditional three techniques as you may have seen in a 4-2 or 4-3 scheme. They are very tight threes. Some people will actually end up drawing them as twos from time to time, but they are tight threes. When I say tight threes, I teach my kid, I want your face mask lined up on the shoulder of the tackle, or the guard, excuse me. I want him tight enough that when the ball is snapped, you can grab cloth with both hands if need be. I don't want you so wide that a trap scheme is going to kill us all night long. I want you tight enough because our defensive line rules for these three guys right here are really simple. Do not get reached. Do not allow a scoop block. It's really simple. You don't have to have power 5 kids in here. You don't even have to have really, really, really big kids in here. All you have to have is tough kids that are willing to grab cloth and be physical and understand that the plays that they make, they're going to have to earn them. Because your first job is to keep this back section clean. That's your first job. Your second job is to make the play. But your first job is to grab cloth, do whatever you have to do, keep these guys on the back end clean. Now, as far as alignment, we play a head up 6 here if we have a tight end. He's in a shade 9. And our 240 tech players are feet at 5. That's what we play, feet at 5 yards. I don't get in this whole toes and heels thing, son, feet at 5. It's a very simple concept. The easiest way for you to remember that you're right is if you look to your right or look to your left and you see these corners out here and you're behind them, you're probably too far away. If you're in front of them, unless we're playing press, you're probably a little bit too close because I teach my corners 5-by-1 inside unless we're playing press. So we do that as a way for a kid to easily tell they're lined up quickly, they're lined up correctly, and they know where they're supposed to be. So that's what the AFC does if we're in a heavy set. Now, I'm going to show you what the automatic front does if we get more of a looser set. I'm going to show you how we make it change and how we make the numbers match inside what we need to be able to do. If we face a team, for instance, that wants to give us, some of these teams today, they run 11 personnel, they'll run sniffer sets, things of that nature. I'm just going to put the Y off. They'll do different things. And what we have to be able to do is account for that. And most of the time, yes, we have to be able to account for it in the pass game. So what we will do is we'll take the strong safety. Let's say we have an F out here, maybe slot receiver. We'll take the strong safety and we'll just bump him out. When we bump him out, he now adjusts the formation for us. What he does is prevent us from being outflanked, and he now adjusts to number 2. The strong safety's rule in automatic front is to automatically adjust the number 2 to his side. So if that number 2 goes from a true fullback to now a slot receiver, 180-pound kid runs a 4-3, guess what? That strong safety leaves the box. And you'll notice we're in a 5-man front and no longer the heavy 6-man front. All we do is bump back, bump over, and we adjust the scheme. We adjust to what we see as a defense. We don't sit here and say, oh, we're going to stay at an 8-man front. No, that'd be suicide. We adjust to what we see. Now, the interesting part about the scheme that it gives us some flexibility is because these guys' rules did not change. Nobody's rule changed. He was a C-gap player when he was on the line of scrimmage. He's a C-gap player now. He was in a 40 tech to this side. Now he's in a 40 tech to the other side. But he still has a tackle to near back read. Nothing changed for him. What we did is we counted the surface, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 box. We maintained our +1 in the run game, but we adjusted ourselves on the outside for coverage purposes so you can't outflank us. Now, most of the time, the number one question I get asked is, what coverage are you wanting? That's a good question. Tonight, all we're going to talk about is single coverage. We're going to talk about cover 1. In other episodes, I'll show you some of the zone things that we do. But I want you to first understand how the formation adjusts to front. So we're never going to be, a lot of guys say we're going to out-formation you. Well, that's tough to do when the number one thing we're teaching in the summer is to adjust our alignment to the formation. That's the number one thing we're teaching. Whether it be bunch, trips, nub, pro slot, pro flex, sniffer sets, we're teaching our kids to line up properly to the formation. Because one of the things that Buddy Ryan knew early, and it applies even nowadays to high school, if you can line up properly, 75% of your errors will go away. If you can just line up properly. Most teams get gashed in the run game. Most teams give a big play because they're out leveraged. they're out-gapped, they're out-manned, or they're not lined up properly. If you can just line up to the look the offense is giving you correctly, you can take away 3/4 of your problems before the ball's even snapped. Any questions, Coach?
Yeah, can you move that Y out to a true doubles? How are you lining up against true doubles?
Excellent question. True doubles and true trips, we align to it two different ways, and that is depending on what coverage that we're in. If we want to keep a 7 box, Coach Salas is going to make me talk about something other than single coverage tonight. If we want to keep the heavy 7 box, we'll sit here and here, and we'll play a 2 read or a palm scheme. And what we'll do is we'll allow him to maintain the 5th rusher, okay? We will match 3 on each side, and we'll play a 2-to-1 read and play a palm screen with our corners and safeties. We've had a lot of success with that. Nick Saban has a lot of success with that in his 40 front scheme. It kind of looks like man, it kind of plays like man, kind of feels like man, but it's not 100% man. And because we're a predominantly 60% man team, we love the palm scheme because it gives us the flexibility to line up to a true 2x2, and we can still play aggressive, but we don't have to worry about getting beat deep because we're reading what's in front of us and playing assignment football. The other way that we approach 2x2 doubles is based upon more of what you're trying to do in doubles. Are you trying to run the football or are you trying to throw the football? Especially as high school coaches, there's plenty of times you'll see 4 wide, and it's just because they want to get you out of the box so they can run the ball. So, but if we're facing a team that is a little bit more vertical oriented, we'll slim our box down a little bit and we'll look a little bit like this. We'll take the jack linebacker and slide him, stack the mic, and then play single high. This opens the door for our cover 3 schemes, our fire zone concepts, and things of that nature. So we have the ability to do more than one thing. This is actually called a hawk alignment in the 46, H-A-W-K. It's called a hawk alignment. What I showed you earlier when he comes in is called a J-hawk alignment. Why? Because the J is back in the box. Don't ask me why Buddy come up with that 30 years ago, but he did, and I stuck with it because it makes it easy for me to understand. So what makes a lot of this tick, and this is the part, Coach, that I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions on, is we are not a spill team on the outside. That's what makes a lot of this scheme tick. A lot of teams will get in these looks, and the number one thing they want to do is run this 2-man game here. That's the number one thing they want to do. They got an athletic quarterback. They got a kid they want to get in space. They want to do that. We're not a spill team. My edge players are not going to jump in there and dive on their running back in 2 seconds. No, we're a force and a leverage team. So we're going to take the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands, so to speak, and we're going to force you to give the ball inside the teeth of this. So regardless of whether we're in our hawk look, which is a 5-1 alignment, if we're in our J-hawk alignment, whatever we're in, we're going to force that read option and veer scheme to give the ball into the teeth of the defense at all times. That's our basic run fit concept. We have a philosophy that's simple. A team doesn't run read option if they have Tom Brady. A team runs read option if they have Lamar Jackson. So what do you want to do? Take the ball out of his hands and force him to give it up every single play. You do that enough, the coach will either get frustrated and call different things, so he's going to be a design run, or he'll start throwing the football. Perhaps you even get a kid that makes the bad read because he wants the ball and he pulls it and gets knocked out because he's trying to keep the ball himself and make a play, and now he's going, and what is that? That's the schematic pressure I told you about. He's going against the rules of his own scheme because we're forcing him to do something he doesn't want to do. Any other questions?
No, that was it. That was good, man.
All right, now, in our trip, and we're facing trips because we do see that a lot. Trips, we do the same thing. The only difference is that is when the jack linebacker and the strong safety play the same side of the ball. When you teach them in the summer, you tell the strong safety and the jack linebacker, if you're ever on the same side of the field as each other, and it's not trips, somebody's getting ready to get yelled at. However, if we're facing true trips, I'm just going to give you a Y out here, and we're going to call this true trips. If we're facing true trips, what we will do, remember we're talking single high cover 1 stuff tonight, is now the jack linebacker comes over here. He's going to align with the strong safety. He has to make us right. Now is when you see your hawk alignment scheme. We're going to send everybody here. We're going to align play 3 for 3. You'll be surprised how many spread teams this really disrupts what they want to do because they're teaching quarterbacks to count the box and count the perimeter. They're trying to teach quarterbacks to understand pre-snap stuff. So when a quarterback looks out and sees 3 for 3, all of the bubble and the smoke and all the things that he's been talking about all summer long, we just took most of that and threw it in the trash can. We said, no, we're not playing that 3-on-2 game with you tonight. So I start everything from cover one alignment. We teach that day one because some teams are not designed to attack man coverage. Some offenses are simply designed, especially spread. They want to attack cover two, cover three, cover four. They teach the quarterbacks, find the hole in the zone. Well, I have a joke that I tell the defensive staff. Plays don't beat man, players do. So you can design anything you want, but at the end of the day, your kid's got to beat my kid. That's basically how it works. When you prove that you're that kind of player, then yeah, we rotate the zone schemes, we do different things. But the first thing we teach the kids how to do is how to line it up from cover one. That's the first coverage we teach day one.